welcome, all you chilling chums and midnight mischief makers. It's your gleefully ghoulish hostess, Vampire Girl, inviting you into my shadowy witchy abode where every night is a fright and the teacups rattle with ghostly glee. Pull up a squeaky coffin lid and prepare to be extra entertained because tonight's episode promises grave laughs and devilishly delectable dread. Tonight we're diving fang first into the infernal folio of Faust, that fiendish fellow who made a deal with the devil and wound up with more than just a bad case of heartburn. Talk about selling your soul for a little afterlaugh. I've got a bone to pick with our soul-swindling star. No one creeps out Vampire Girl in these woods, except maybe my ex, the Banshee, but we don't talk about her wails on air. Gather your ghastliest goblets, wrap yourself in your most menacing mummy wrap, and slither in closer. We'll unearth the dooms and grooms of Faust's fate. Sprinkle in some wicked wordplay, I'm simply dying to punish you, and leave you with a chilling moral. Because if there's anything I adore more than a fresh grave, it's a gruesome lesson well learned. Remember, fright fiends, in this house, every curse is a cackle and every tale has a little bite. Stay tuned, or else you'll miss out on the most exhilarating episode yet. Are you ready to uncover the secrets that the dark holds? And just a quick disclaimer. Beware, my brave listeners. The Fanged Hexes Midnight Musings podcast is here to entertain and educate you, but be warned. Venturing into the shadows isn't for the faint of heart. Our tales may tickle your funny bone or send shivers down your spine. If we're diving into particularly eerie realms, I'll give you a heads up in the episode description so you can properly brace yourself. The supernatural stories and folklore we discuss are based on legends and myths, not cold hard facts. If you hear a spine-chilling tale, remember, it's all in good fun. We keep the language mild, but the listener discretion is advised. If the eerie tales are too much, feel free to fast forward or skip to a later episode. And for the ghoulish little goblins out there, I'll signal you if an episode isn't child-friendly. My goal is to entertain and put a smile on your face, not to have you running for the hills screaming in the night. So sit back, relax, and plunge into the dark delights with an open mind. You're in for a frightfully fantastic time. My ghoulish gang! It's been a spell, hasn't it? I owe you all a fang-deep apology for vanishing longer than a vampire in a tanning salon. Life handed me a cocktail of mental health speed bumps, creative misadventures, and a work schedule that could drain even the hardiest creature of the night. So if you pictured me cocooned in a velvet shroud, muttering to bats about unfinished projects while stress-eating candy corn, you wouldn't be far off. But before we unearth tonight's tale, can we talk about this July heat? Even the undead aren't safe from Canada's side of a summer inferno. It's so hot, I caught my reflection sweating. And I don't even have a reflection. My cape is practically a puddle, and the only thing thriving in this weather are the mosquitoes, who apparently think I'm part of an all-you-can-drink buffet. Still, hope springs eternal, or at least until Halloween, because fellow fiends, even as my brain feels like it's been slow-cooked, I'm clinging to the lifeline that is Summerween. The not-so-official but absolutely necessary warm-up to spooky season. The pumpkins are lurking in the shadows of grocery stores, skeleton decor is fighting for shelf space with pool noodles, and I, for one, am counting down the minutes until I can trade sunblock for fake blood. So thank you for hanging in there with me, for your patience through the ghostly silence, and for not sending a search party armed with garlic. I'm officially back, dusted off, and ready to bring you tales of devilish deals, haunted histories, and whatever other macabre mischief we can dig up together. Let's get this afterlife of the party started. Alright, let's dig right into the coffin, shall we? So, of course, for my review, I chose Another Faust by the devilishly clever Neyeri siblings is a tantalizing twist on the classic tale, where pacts are signed in shadows and ambition is the monster lurking under every prep school bed. It's a deliciously dark blend of supernatural mischief and modern-day mayhem, all wrapped up in a plot thick with temptation and topped with cackling wit. Sink your teeth into this. 5 deliciously complicated teens, each plucked from their dreary mortal woes and whisked away to the dazzling halls of a Manhattan prep school by none other than Madame Villeroy. Her charm is as deadly as her bargains. Each poor soul is served a wish hotter than a witch's cauldron. Fame, brains, beauty, power, and every delectable delight mortals crave. But beware, my ghastly gang, every magic gift comes gift-wrapped in curses and consequences, and Villeroy's fine print is more tangled than my cobweb collection. This book is a cauldron of black-humored banter, temptation stickier than caramel on a candied bat, and plot twists that will rattle your bones and chill your marrow. The Neyeris don't just retell Faust, they resurrect it, zap it with a jolt of wicked teen angst, and set it loose to prowl the night. What's lurking inside, you may ask? A cast sharper than a vampire's manicure, each with secrets juicier than a fresh vein. Dilemmas that'll have you howling at the moon should you root for their redemption or revel in their ruin. Supernatural schemes, winks, and wily wordplay sure to tickle your funny bone. Post-mortem, of course. And a moral to chew on. Be careful what you wish for, or you might just get it, and then some. Another Faust is a fiendishly fun frolic through temptation, ambition, and the ever-enticing lure of a shortcut. Careful with those, sometimes a shortcut leads straight to the crypt. So pour a goblet of the darkest brew, snuggle up in your best batwing blanket, and prepare to be hextra entertained. But don't say old vampire girl didn't warn you. Madame Villeroy is always listening, and her contracts are a real pain in the neck. In the world of deals with devils, it's always best to read the fine print, or bring your own stake. As always, fools, I have some fun facts for you to ponder throughout this episode. The tale of Faust originated from German folklore and was first popularized in the 16th century by the story of Johann Georg Faust, a real-life alchemist and magician whose reputation for dabbling in the occult inspired generations of storytellers. A Faustian deal refers to any pact where a person trades something of deep moral or spiritual value, like their soul, in exchange for power, knowledge, or worldly pleasures, often with disastrous consequences lurking in the fine print. Goethe's Faust is one of the most famous versions of the story. It has been adapted into operas, ballets, films, and even symphonic pieces, providing that making a devilish bargain never goes out of style in the arts. Faust's demon of choice, Mephistopheles, has become an iconic figure in literature, a suave, witty, and dangerously persuasive tempter, setting the gold standard for devilish charm. The phrase Faustian bargain has entered everyday language, used whenever someone sacrifices their ethics or values for success. Think mythic, but also totally applicable at your next office meeting. Many famous works and characters are inspired by the Faust legend, including Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, and even pop culture icons who make questionable pacts for fame or power. Faust's story has a unique twist, depending on the version. Sometimes he's doomed, but in Goethe's rendition, he is ultimately redeemed, a testament to the enduring debate about temptation, repentance, and second chances. For trivia and our fun crafts, be sure to check out the show notes after. Let's kick things off at the crossroads, because where else do you discuss life-changing contracts? So who is this Faust character, and what's his deal? Literally. He's the ultimate overachiever, part scholar, part thrill-seeker, an all-around poster child for curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Not satisfied with just book learning or the occasional dabble in astrology, Faust wants it all. Knowledge, pleasure, power, maybe a better Wi-Fi plan, and for that, he is ready to sign on the dotted line, with a little help from Mephistopheles, the sharpest dressed tempter in all of literature. Let's pull back the curtain on Mephistopheles, whose resume stretches back centuries. First scribbled into legend as early as the late 16th century, Mephistopheles wasn't always the slick negotiator we know today. In the earliest German chapbooks and plays, he's a sort of cosmic middle manager, not the devil himself, but the demonic emissary dispatched to do the dirty work. His name's a puzzle in itself, possibly stitched together from Hebrew roots meaning destroyer or scatterer of lies, or maybe from Greek not loving the light, which, let's be honest, tracks for a night-dwelling mischief maker. Through the years, Mephistopheles has picked up a reputation for more than just soul brokering. In Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, he's not so much a grinning villain as a morose, world-weary demon who almost pities Faustus' desperation. He's philosophical, darkly witty, and once in a while surprisingly honest about how terrible eternal damnation really is, as if trying to warn mortals, hey, maybe don't do this. Fast forward to Goethe's version, and Mephistopheles becomes the gold standard of supernatural charisma. Quick with a quip, dapper as a Victorian illusionist. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun episode. Quick with a quip, dapper as a Victorian illusionist, and always ready to exploit a human weakness with a smile. Over centuries of retellings, he's been a shapeshifter. Sometimes a trickster, sometimes a tempter. Sometimes a cosmic pessimist who delights in exposing human folly. So how does the story play out? Our tale begins with Faust feeling pretty done with life's usual menu. He's read all the books, done all the math, tried all the sciences, and found himself bored to the point of existential crisis. Haven't we all, waiting for Halloween merchandise in July? Enter Mephistopheles, suave, witty, and offering the kind of bargain that makes Black Friday look tame. The deal? Faust trades his soul for unlimited knowledge and earthly delights. Instant gratification with a fiery footnote. Depending on which version you pick, things get either spicy or downright tragic. In some classic tales, like Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, Faust overindulges. Wine, romance, a little light magic, and then, true to the contract, is dragged into the underworld. Moral: always read the fine print, especially when it's written in brimstone. But Goethe's twist is more of a slow burn redemption arc. Faust still goes all in with the infernal deal, but instead of damning him for eternity, Goethe tosses him a lifeline. Faust's striving in eventual repentance win him a cosmic do-over. It's the ultimate debate. Can you come back from the worst of choices, or does the devil always get the last laugh? Faust's saga has been retold everywhere from puppet shows to grand operas, and it's not hard to see why. Who hasn't pondered what they give up for a shot at greatness, or at least a few extra hours of sleep? Whether doomed or redeemed, Faust's journey is the gold standard for stories about ambition, temptation, and the eternal hope that maybe, just maybe, you can outsmart your demons. As for Mephistopheles, he's always lurking in the wings, ready to offer a deal. Sometimes as the story's villain, but just as often as its sly, sardonic commentator on human nature. So as we dust off our skeletons and fend off the July mosquitoes, let's toast to Faust. And especially to Mephistopheles, the man, the myth, the cautionary tale, and the devil who's made even eternal contracts sound like a good time for centuries. Let's creak open the crypt and shine a ghostly lantern on this idea of trading your soul, shall we? In the haunted halls of folklore, making a deal like Faust isn't just about ink on an infernal contract, it's the grand exchange, swapping your deepest principles, your conscience, maybe even a slice of your identity for something irresistible. Think of it as the ultimate trick-or-treat, only the treat is fame, power, or forbidden knowledge, and the trick is what you're giving up to get it. That's why selling your soul is the perfect graveyard metaphor for tossing aside your beliefs for a taste of mortal rewards. Now, why do these tales keep rattling their chains through our imaginations? Because they prod at those age-old questions that keep skeletons and mortals up at night. Is ambition a cobweb path to ruin, or the fire that drives us forward? Can the thirst for knowledge ever push us into dangerous territory? From philosophers pondering in candlelit studies to your friendly neighborhood ghoul, we've all wondered if some secrets are better left buried. Sometimes, chasing after every answer leads somewhere darker than we planned. And these moral quandaries aren't just the stuff of shadowy legends, they haunt our daily choices too. Selling out today doesn't mean bartering your soul to a demon, but maybe setting aside your artistic vision for a quick buck or bending the rules to climb a career ladder that smells of mothballs and regret. The crossroads aren't always lit by lightning. Sometimes they show up as a sneaky shortcut, a just this once decision, or the little voice in your head rattling its chains about what's right. So why do we keep coming back to the Faustian bargain? Because it's a mirror to our own restless ambition and the spooky suspicion that the cost of having it all could be higher than we think. So beware, my fiendish friends, the best deals are often the ones that seem too good to be true. So check the contract twice and maybe keep a little garlic handy, just in case. Pop culture seems to have a standing reservation at the crossroads, forever fascinated by the devil's deal in all its slippery, tempting forms. The Faustian bargain isn't just a relic of dusty legend, it's a plot twist that never goes out of fashion, resurfacing in every era with a fresh wardrobe and new stakes. From blockbuster films to indie horror, the eternal contract gets a modern makeover. In The Devil's Advocate, 1997, Al Pacino's diabolical charisma turns the legal world into a playground for temptation. His promises of power and prestige always coming with a price. Bedazzled, 2000, takes a cheekier approach. Brendan Fraser's every man stumbles through a series of hilariously warped wishes, courtesy of Elizabeth Hurley's fashion-forward devil, each one teaching him that shortcuts to happiness are never what they seem. Television keeps the legend alive with Supernatural, where crossroads demons grant desperate souls exactly what they want, at the steepest cost imaginable. Watching the Winchester brothers wrestle with regret and sacrifice, the series remind us that even the most seasoned heroes can be tempted into a deal with dire consequences. Then there's The Witch, 2015. This has become one of my favorite movies. A slow-burning tale of temptation wrapped in Puritan dread. Here, the devil's offer isn't gold or glory, it's the freedom to live unburdened by fear and repression. The infamous question, wouldst thou like to live deliciously? is whispered in flickering candlelight as seductive as any spell. I have to admit, I love that line so much, I'm going to cross-stitch it for my crypt. It's already a treasure quote in my grimoire. There's something deliciously unsettling about the way it lingers, teasing out our secret longings and the thrill of rebellion. Hellraiser is another one. Hellraiser was definitely not the movies that I thought they were going to be. I'm not going to get into it too much. That'll be a whole other episode of how it's not so much a horror movie, but a really dark fairy tale. Pinhead and the Cenobites don't arrive with golden contracts, but their puzzle box is a gateway to pleasures and torments beyond imagining. It's a deal of sorts, an invitation to transcendence that's as seductive as it is ruinous, showing us that the cost of desire is often measured in suffering we never, ever bargained for. The lament configuration is Faust's contract reimagined as a shimmering lethal toy. Open it, and your soul becomes collateral for experiences no mortal should crave. Then there's the skeleton key, where the devil's bargain wears the mask of Southern Gothic. Here, magic and belief intertwine, and the real contract is psychological. The price of entry is faith itself. The film's chilling twist hinges on the willingness to buy into the supernatural, making the exchange of souls not just a matter of ritual, but of surrendering one's skepticism at the door. The echoes of Faust here are subtle but insidious. Sometimes to be ensnared, you only need to believe. If you'd rather consult witches than demons, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina brings the classic tale to a new generation, dressing up its infernal pacts in teenage angst and spellbound rebellion. Sabrina Spellman literally signs her name in the Book of the Beast, weighing personal freedom against cosmic consequence, all under the sardonic gaze of a devil who's as much a manipulator as a mirror to our secret wishes. Every spell, every choice, is a new negotiation with darkness, a dance at the crossroads where the price is as unpredictable as the magic itself. And of course, no tour of Devil's Bargains would be complete without a detour through The Simpsons' Treehouse of Horror. Who could forget Homer, always hungry for more, trading his soul for a donut in The Devil and Homer Simpson? The episode gleefully lampoons the Faustian template right down to the kangaroo court trial in the underworld, reminding us that sometimes the scariest deals are also the funniest. In Springfield's version, eternal damnation comes with sprinkles, and the devil's best trick is making a temptation look like dessert. And who does not love dessert? Animation continues to get in on the fun with Ricky and Morty, delivering its own twisted take with a Needful Things parody, satirizing our belief that we can get what we want without ever paying the price. The Devil's Pawn Shop is stuffed with cursed goods, but the real joke is how easily we're lured in by the promise of easy fixes. Even music can't resist a detour to the crossroads. The legend of bluesman Robert Johnson's Midnight Deal give birth to some of the most hauntingly iconic riffs in history, while the Rolling Stones' sympathy for the devil turns the archetype on its head, inviting us to ponder who's really pulling the strings behind humanity's follies. Before we continue with the mythos, it's worth a quick disclaimer. So much of what we know or think we know about Robert Johnson is tangled in legend, not hard fact. Stories of crossroads pacts and midnight bargains are irresistible, but much of Johnson's life is shrouded in mystery, hearsay, and the shadowy glow of the blues itself. His legacy is a mosaic of truth, rumor, and the kind of folklore that loves to haunt the edges of American music history. So Robert Johnson was born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi in 1911, growing up amid the hardscrabble realities of the rural South. He was a restless spirit from early on, moving between towns, learning guitar, and absorbing the music of the Delta. What set Johnson apart wasn't just his technical brilliance, but the aching soul that poured from his music. Songs like Hellhound on My Trail and Love in Vain echo with longing, sorrow, and a restless desire for more than the world would ever give. In the early 1930s, Johnson's reputation began to spread. Fellow musicians remarked on his sudden transformation from an amateur to an uncanny virtuoso. Fuel for the legendary tale of a midnight meeting at the crossroads, where he supposedly bartered his soul for supernatural skill. Whether you believe the myth or not, Johnson's ability was undeniable. His recordings, made in a handful of sessions between 1936 and 1937, captured a sound both raw and otherworldly, influencing generations to come. Yet, just as quickly as he arrived, Johnson vanished. In 1938, at only 27 years old, he died under mysterious circumstances. Some say he was poisoned by a jealous rival, others claim the devil came to collect his due. The lack of concrete details surrounding his death only deepened the aura of enigma, giving rise to the so-called 27 Club of musicians who left the world too young and too strongly. Johnson's disappearance cemented his legend, ensuring that every note he played at the crossroads would echo with rumors, questions, and that persistent spectral deal with the devil. Meanwhile, the Rolling Stones put a mischievous spin on the archetype with their iconic track, Sympathy for the Devil. In this song, the devil himself takes the mic, guiding us through centuries of human folly with a sly, knowing grin. Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name, he taunts before confessing. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. The lyrics weave through episodes of history, wars, revolutions, betrayals, suggesting the true danger lies not in some horned figure, but in humanity's willingness to dance to temptation's tune. The Stones' devil is charismatic, cultured, and ever-present, a reflection of how easily we invite trouble in when the reward glitters just bright enough. From courtrooms and crossroads to colonial farms and cosmic pawn shops, pulp culture keeps striking deals with the devil, sometimes for laughs, sometimes for chills, but always as a reminder that the cost of getting what we want often creeps up behind us, grinning in the shadows. Whether you're tempted by power, freedom, or just a little taste of something forbidden, remember, the devil's contract is always waiting, and the fine print never changes. But the devil's handshake isn't confined to folklore or fiction. History is filled with flesh and blood figures whose ambition, genius, or hunger for power seem to conjure that same spectral bargain. We call them Faustian not because they met a horned stranger at midnight, but because they made choices that changed the world for a price that wouldn't be tallied until far later. Think of the corporate titans whose names echo through boardrooms and news headlines. John D. Rockefeller, for example, rose from modest beginnings to build Standard Oil into a near monopoly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. His relentless pursuit of success revolutionized the oil industry and made him one of the most wealthy individuals in history. But this ascent came at a cost. Rockefeller's aggressive business tactics, ruthless price wars, secret deals, and the absorption or crushing of competitors drew widespread criticism and led to antitrust legislation meant to curtail the power of such industrial giants. His legacy prompts us to ask whether the vast fortunes and progress he achieved justified the ethical compromises and disruption left in his wake. Was his rise a Faustian bargain, trading moral restraint for empire building? In more contemporary times, figures like Mark Zuckerberg exemplify the modern version of this dilemma. As the co-founder of Facebook, Zuckerberg's drive to connect the world has reshaped how billions of people communicate and consume information. Yet this technological revolution has also opened Pandora's box. Privacy scandals, the spread of misinformation, and growing concerns about social media's influence on democracy and mental health. Zuckerberg's willingness to push boundaries, sometimes in the face of public outcry or regulatory scrutiny, raises the question of whether the quest for innovation and global connectivity has come at the expense of societal well-being. In this light, his story echoes the classic Faustian theme. What are we willing to sacrifice for power, influence, or the promise of progress, and how do we reckon with the consequences once the deal is done? Both Rockefeller and Zuckerberg are emblematic of Faustian bargains in the modern age, their extraordinary achievement shadowed by the profound, sometimes troubling, costs that accompany their ambition. Their stories remind us that in the pursuit of greatness, the line between progress and peril can be perilously thin. Politicians, too, have been painted in Faustian shades. The phrase, deal with the devil, often surfaces in stories of backroom alliances, Machiavellian compromises, or the lust for power that blinds leaders to the fallout of their decisions. The Watergate scandal, the Iran-Contra affair, and so many secretive accords throughout history remind us how easily deals can be bartered for expediency, leaving a trail of regret and damaged trust. The arts are no less haunted. Artists and performers from Robert Johnson to modern pop icons have been accused, sometimes literally, sometimes in metaphor, of selling their souls for talent, fame, or immortality. The myth persists because so many creative lives spiral under the weight of success, addiction, or relentless public scrutiny. It's the age-old question, how much would you sacrifice for greatness, and would it ever be enough? Science, too, is a crucible for Faustian bargains. J. Robert Oppenheimer, father of the atomic bomb, stands as a sober example. Driven by the promise of ending a world war, he and his colleagues unlocked the secret of the atom, only to find themselves haunted by the destructive potential they unleashed. I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, Oppenheimer quoted from the Bhagavad Gita. Probably said that wrong. Capturing the vertigo of scientific triumph shadowed by moral reckoning. The shadow of such deals stretches into the present as we wrestle with artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and other frontiers that tempt us with godlike power even as they warn us of consequences yet unseen. In every era, Faustian figures remind us that progress and peril often walk hand in hand. Ambition can light the way or burn it down. Their stories challenge us not only to wonder what price they paid, but to examine the bargains we're making ourselves. Every time we choose convenience over conscience, advancement over accountability, or spectacle over substance. Now, let's draw the curtains, hush the lights, and invite the cold breath of night to settle in, because our next tale is not for the faint of heart. Lean in closer, if you dare. The Devil's Ledger. Midnight. The old library, blackened by the fire that took its last patron, loomed in the fog, a place the townsfolk pretended had never existed. Yet Evelyn, driven by a desperate longing, pressed trembling fingers to the rotted door, her breath clouding in the unnatural chill. Shadows twined around her ankles as she slipped inside, guided by the faintest whisper of a voice only she could hear. There it was, the ledger, bound in cracked, leathery skin, pulsing with a heartbeat not its own. Rumor said it granted wishes, but only to those who signed its pages. Evelyn's heart hammered as she opened it, the candle's trembling flame wavering against inky darkness that seemed to swallow the light. Her hand, no longer entirely her own, moved the pen. She scrawled her wish, "Let me be remembered." As the last letter bled into the parchment, the ink writhed, rising from the page, forming shapes that hissed her name. The room groaned, and the shadows gathered, coiling tighter around her as a dry, ancient voice rasped, "Welcome to your eternity." Fame embraced her like a fever. Her face was everywhere, her name thundered by strangers, yet each night her dreams twisted. Faces melted, whispers turned into screams, and applause thundered like nails against a coffin. Those she loved backed away, their eyes clouded with dread they could not name, leaving Evelyn alone in a spotlight that burned cold. Her reflection warped in every mirror, her features blurred, eyes cavernous, mouth stretched in a rictus grin not her own. Soon her name was all that remained, spoken in fear, written in obituaries echoing down empty corridors. She tried to forget the ledger, but it was there in every shadow, every heartbeat, every whisper of her name in the dark. Now when the wind howls through the ruins and the moon is devoured by clouds, children swear they hear footsteps behind them, a snatch of laughter without a face. They say Evelyn's name and the shadows shiver, for her wish was granted. She is remembered, always by those who fear what answers when the clock strikes 12. So, dear listeners, if you ever stumble upon an ancient ledger, think hard before you sign. Some bargains never end, and some names echo forever in the dark. Cool friends and fiends, you might be thinking, July is a strange time for a devilish delight straight out of Halloween's haunted vault. Well, let's be honest. Faust's legendary pact with the devil is so dripping with spooky atmosphere and classic chills, it refuses to stay buried until October. After all, what better way to spice up your summer than with the story that inspired every cursed object, haunted contract, and forbidden secret whispered about at Halloween. Faust's tale is the beating black heart of our favorite Halloween tropes, cursed tombs that promise the world, for a trifle like your soul, deals inked in blood, and the age-old temptation of secrets that should stay locked in the crypt. That's why boils and ghouls were resurrecting this legend under the sizzling sun, because the spirit of Halloween isn't confined to autumn leaves and pumpkin spice. Like Faust's bargain, a good scare is seasonless. So grab a garlic, dust off your cobweb courage, and gather around the campy cauldron. The devil's in the details, and classic deals with the devil are always in style, whether the moon is high or the summer sun is blazing. Now, my deliciously little daring listeners, before the velvet curtain falls, allow me to tempt you with a few irresistible bargains of my own. Imagine the contract unfurling in midnight shadows, the pen cool as moonlight in your trembling hand. Would you sign? You can be famous forever, your name etched in every history book, but everyone you love will forget you entirely. Deal or no deal? Or what about gain the power to glimpse the future, every twist and turn laid bare before you, but lose all joy in the present, each day gray and hollow? Will you take the bargain? The perfect creative masterpiece, a novel, a painting, a song that outlasts the ages, but you must give up your own voice. Left a silent spectator to your own legend. Would you trade that? Endless youth, not a wrinkle nor ache as the centuries pass, but each year someone you care for must age in your place. Do you dare sign? Wealth beyond measure, gold and jewels flowing through your fingers, but with every coin you collect, a cherished memory slips away forever. Is the fortune worth the cost? So, my sweet souls, which of these delectable bargains calls to your shadow's heart? Or will you let the ink run dry and the contract curl away in the midnight air? Remember, every agreement has its secret stipulation, every wish its exquisite consequence. The devil adores attentive ears and irresistible desires, and sometimes the greatest thrill of all is not the wish granted, but the price paid in velvet darkness. Choose carefully, for I am always waiting. just beyond the candle's glow, in every lingering midnight sigh. Before we let the bats loose and douse the candelabra, I want to share a few hauntingly personal tales from my own moonlit sojourns, and slip in a story from the mortal coil, one that may sound eerily familiar to many of you. For instance, I'll confess. While I've never signed my name in brimstone or inked a deal with the devil, I'd be lying if I said I haven't felt the temptation, especially in those moments when life seems to delight in sending me back to square one. You know the feeling, a string of small victories, a sliver of sunlight, and then, as if on cue, the universe yanks the rug out. Suddenly, what felt like a steady ascent becomes a Sisyphean slide. Each hard-won step erased, each plan unraveling. In those exasperating hours when it truly feels like it's one thing after another, the lure of a Faustian shortcut, just a little help to tip the scales, whispers a little louder, doesn't it? Maybe it's not eternal youth or gold I crave, but a single moment where fate finally cuts me some slack. I haven't signed any contracts yet, but oh, how the shadows sometimes beckon. And speaking of shadows, another night found me alone in a candlelit library, running my fingers along the spines of ancient books. When I opened a leather-bound tomb that nearly vibrated with secrets, I caught myself musing. What would I sacrifice for a night of forbidden knowledge? Just then, the lights flickered, the temperature dropped, and I could have sworn I heard a whisper, "Name your price." Reader, I shut that book faster than you can say hexed and dashed for the door, heart thumping with a mixture of dread and delight. Did I make a pact that night? Who's to say? But every return visit, the dust seems deeper in the shadows, knowing. Of course, it wouldn't be the Fanged Hexes Midnight Musings if I didn't recall the infamous Halloween when I conjured the ultimate costume, a look to slay all looks. In my quest, I may have murmured an incantation or two, only for my reflection to wink back at me, a spark of mischief in its eye. That night, I took home the trophy. But my mirror has been suspiciously lively ever since. Mere coincidence, or the subtle price of a wish granted when the veil is thin? So my dearest listeners, if you ever find yourself tempted to scrawl your name on a fiendish line or bargain just for a breather from life's relentless resets, know this: you're in good company beneath the velvet darkness. We've all pressed our hands to the cold glass separating us from the forbidden, wondering what we'd give or surrender for a flicker of ease or a taste of the extraordinary. Thank you, my doomed darlings, for crawling out from your shadowy corners to join me for another graveyard shift of ghoulish gab on the Fanged Hexes Midnight Musings. Tonight we exhumed the legend of Faust and his infamous handshake with Hades, dusting off infernal contracts, poking at forbidden secrets like a corpse with a stick, and delighting in temptations so irresistible even Nosferatu would blush. From salivating over sinister deals worthy of a pentagram punch card to unraveling the cobwebs binding Faust's tale to every haunted artifact and cursed contract you've ever side-eyed by candlelight. I trust you found our little descent into devilry as wickedly delightful as a skeleton at a seance. Ghosted listener, if this episode made you cackle, shiver, or consider signing away your soul for a free tote bag, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support is the stake through my cold, unbeating heart. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram for more deliciously dreadful updates and bonus content that'll keep your nerves jangling long after midnight. Got a spine-chilling story or a topic you want to see buried then resurrected on air? Creep into our Facebook group or email vampire_girl_@outlook.com. I'd love to gnaw on your suggestions bone by bone. Remember, the Fanged Hexes Midnight Musings is lurking on Spotify and Amazon Music waiting to pounce. Until our next spectral soiree, stay spooky, my vamps, and keep the ghoul times rolling. But watch your shadow, lest you hear the scratch of a contract sliding under your door. Ta-ta for now, and may your nightmares be ever so entertaining.